Real golf, real golf talk. This is Play It Where It Lies, a Bash Brothers Media golf show and podcast.
He's Stuart the Gent Conway. I'm John Wiener. And Stuart, you talk about Play It Where It Lies. Had a 6 a.m. flight from Long Island this morning, and here we are talking PGA Championship this afternoon. Like, I'm fired up.
Well, you should be. I mean, you've had a great weekend up there, I hope. Not too many family matters and personal things going on to get in the way of the golf.
I was one of those goons on the 17th hole there on Sunday,
no.
and so I'm going to have to take it back. No, we weren't, but we can't wait to get into all of those elements and more on the PGA Championship. It was a long weekend of planes, trains, and automobiles, from the shuttles to the LIRR to JFK and 2 more shuttles in between, and then flew down here, but there's nowhere I'd rather be here after the PGA Championship than talking with Stuart the Gent Conway, and we Play It Where It Lies.
Rightly so. Rightly so.
Coming up on the show, we'll have Play It, Drop It, Roll It of everybody's favorite segment. Jonathan Wall, managing editor of Golf Magazine. Jonathan joins us every year, and I can't wait to talk with him. He's always one of my favorite guests that we were able to bring on.
Great insight into the players, the game, the equipment in particular. Big equipment guy. Love that.
It's right up your alley.
Right up
like, we're going to get Jonathan Wall, and like he and Stuart are just going to go down like the gear wormhole for a while. But some interesting things happening with Jonathan, now the managing editor at Golf Magazine, and certainly gear equipment. We've talked about it on this show a lot. Is always at the forefront and never more than ever right now in the game of golf. Interesting tough lies question. We'll save that. I want to look at an old standing sort of accepted rule in golf that I'm not so sure we shouldn't just blow it all up. And we'll talk about that. And speaking of blowing up, Stuart, at the end of the show, we'll punch out. We're going to have to talk about this. A bird blew up, and it blew up Ole Miss's golf NCAA chances.
Sure
One of
did.
the most bizarre, like, we are Ole Miss losses, to use the phrase, that you'll ever see.
It absolutely was. Absolutely was. You want me to talk about this now or later?
No. We're going to save it for the end of the show. But there was an actual bird, not a birdie, a bird involved, as they say. But let's start with our tee shot, Stuart. Brooks Koepka goes wire to wire at Bethpage for his 4th major, his 4th in 8, his 3rd in the last 5. He replaces Dustin Johnson, who finished 2nd as world number 1. Your big takeaway from the weekend for Brooks Koepka?
My big takeaway for Brooks is that he's proved that he can play with the big boys up there, and he's proved that he can play any kind of golf course. He's played long golf courses.
Brando kind of took that one on the chin, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, he's played he's played all kinds of courses now, win, no win, soft, firm, and he's been able to make it count on every single course he's played on. He's the real thing. He's a real player, you know.
He was so far and away better than anyone else this weekend, and I know that the pressure got to him on Sunday in the back nine, and we'll talk with Jonathan Wall about that, about sort of what we think was, going on mentally with Brooks at that point. But Stuart, this was a golf course that for everyone else played as advertised. It was brutal. It was difficult. There was no one on Sunday that was even under par, but totally through the weekend where Brooks got it to at one point. I mean, I will stay away from the term Tiger-esque, but he was far and away the best player at the PGA Championship. And like, once again, that's the case with Koepka. It's not the first time he said that not only he won, he was way better.
Yeah, he was better. And if you were to break down the entire final round and break it down to 4 holes, he played 4 holes badly.
Yeah.
That was it.
And really bogeys that
that
you make at Bethpage. It was remarkable that he didn't really make any bogeys through 2 rounds. But you make a great point. Even those 4 holes on the backside, I mean, it kind of, the fact that it didn't happen to him sooner just shows you how great he was.
Yeah, it does. And he really proved that he deserves to be where he is. He is playing the best golf in the world right now. There's no question.
What do you make of the perception around Brooks Koepka, the narrative, this idea, is he polarizing or not? Do people like Brooks Koepka? And then on the other side, sort of these lofty comparisons that we're hearing. What about the conversation around Koepka this past weekend on his way to win and now?
Yeah, well, prior to, Koepka is a polarizing individual. He says some things which people take the wrong way, and I'm sure they're not meant to be the way he says them. When he sort of says that half the field is going to blow themselves up in the first day,
right? Which was sort of echoed Jack Nicklaus's comment. But people don't light Jack up for that.
Yeah, but it's true. Another portion of them will just out and out play badly. Then some of them will fall to the pressure, all of which was very, very true. And he did what he said he was going to do. He said he would get to double figures, and he did get to double figures. Okay, we can slice it and dice it and say, well, he didn't end up in double figures. But
he was there, believe me. He got there and then some.
But he didn't have to end up in double figures. That was the point. He did what he had to win the tournament on Sunday. There is no backdoor. I heard reference to Rory getting another backdoor top 10, and there's no backdoors in this game.
Play a drop and roll coming up. There are some backdoors in this game, and Rory had one, but go ahead.
But I think that all in all, I don't know how he tempers his conversations with people, his pressers with the people, tries to make himself a little more endearing.
But people were openly rooting against him as much as you can talk about in golf, and that's coming up in our retee, sort of the Bethpage experience. Yeah. But I mean, he walks off of 14 or 15 after DJ gets it to 1, and fans are openly rooting against him. And what I don't understand, Stuart, is we should like this guy. Like everything we're geared towards. I mean, we supposedly love seeing people hit it a mile. He looks good out there. He has this like champion's pedigree and that steely medal that so many Americans especially really value. And I think part of it, Stuart, is that like we're not ready for him to be this good.
Maybe so.
I think part of the reason and the pushback with Brooks Koepka is no one wants a guy who's 7-8 shots ahead and like suffocates the tournament and strangles all the drama out of it. And he's done that a couple of times now. When Tiger did it, we loved it.
We did.
And to compare Brooks to Tiger, which people are doing all across the board, is I think fair in some places and not. But that is what's different, is when Tiger won by 7-8 shots, it was riveting and people wanted him to win by 20. It's the opposite with Koepka.
It is. And we had similar conversations a few years back. In one of our past lives.
I want to give you credit, by the way. You were on Brooks Koepka just about before anybody. I remember in a golf show long ago, before he won at Erin Hills, you picked him to win at Erin Hills, and you said, not only is he going to win at Erin Hills, you said, I think Koepka has that ability to be that next guy in golf.
Yeah, and I take all the credit for watching the European Tour in the mornings.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Koepka came up through that.
He came up through the European Tour. His brother's on the European Tour right now. And I will tell you, there's another young American on there. His name is Crocker. I can't remember which it is. American doing the same thing Koepka did. I'm going to tell you, watch this guy. He's a good young American player who's doing an alternate route to get his card. Yeah,
but people should pay attention to that. By the way, I mean Stuart was on Koepka. Yeah. I picked Tiger on this show here. Picked Tiger to win the Masters. DJ was my pick this past weekend,
he was.
and I'll be damned if DJ wasn't, right there in T2, one shot off the lead. When you look at Koepka, I mean, Stuart, we heard, I wrote it down, Tiger, Tyson, Brady, Trout. I mean, those kind of comparisons. Are we going too far? Or do we look and say, here's a guy, again, because we talked about how he won and the perception around him. Now, as we look ahead, are we going too far to project that this guy, I want to leave Tiger out of it, but that this guy can be the next dominant figure in the game, that he's on that Mike Tyson, Tom Brady level?
He's on the road to it and has the ability to become that player. But I still think, again, and this is no discredit to Brooks Koepka, he's still got to win a few more before he really gets into that deep conversation of, is he one of the best ones? He has the ability to do it. There's no question about it. No question. I think. I
mean, when you talk about, and people want to, I think, overanalyze this too much. It's simple with Koepka. He hits it further than anybody, and he's got one of the best short games on the planet. He has that like John Daly talent with, a more of a Michael Jordan type mentality. I mean, this is what Daly had the ability to do if he was mentally there when you hit it further with anybody, but you have the touch that he has.
Yeah, it's a shame what happened to Daly, and we won't go down that road right now, but
we will soon.
But we will. Yeah, Koepka has the abilities. You're right. He has every aspect of the game. He has, his big strength is his length off the tee, his ability to hit shots under pressure and get them where he needs them to be. Some of his driving was just spectacular over this week. Just was absolutely phenomenal. I'm not taking away any other part of his game, but just his driving alone was to hit those narrow fairways, to take on corners. Just the way he hit the ball down, the first in particular, just like phenomenal.
What's interesting when you talked about the, has he won 3 or has he won 4? We saw, and Hack and Hank talked about this before the show. We saw Rory make a big push. Hadn't won anything in a long time.
Nope.
We saw Spieth when he walked off at Royal Birkdale. He said, this guy's just going to stack them up. He hasn't won anything in a long time. Do you see that same thing in play with Koepka? I don't necessarily, Stuart. I'm like, I don't see the hole in Koepka that we knew was there with Spieth and that we've seen develop with McIlroy up here.
Yeah, I was always of the opinion that McIlroy was going to be a streaky golfer.
Right.
I always felt that he was going to be that guy that was going to... still to this day, I still think that if McIlroy plays his best golf, nobody can beat him.
Yeah.
But I don't think he plays his best golf but 2 or 3 times a year.
And meanwhile, this guy Brooks, it seems like he's 4 times out of the year, he's playing his best golf.
And he can turn it on when he wants to. That's the impressive thing about him.
Yeah.
But I do think we need to temper it a little, and I think we do need to look at it and say, okay, we've gone through 2 years of this, back-to-back U.S. Opens, back-to-back PGAs. Nobody's ever done that before. Nobody. And, let's see where we are after the Open Championship in Ireland and see where we are with that. See how he competes in that. Again, it's a course that he should be able to play well over there. I don't know whether Pebble is his kind of course or not, but
as you just said, you said it yourself 10 minutes ago. He's shown he can win everywhere.
Oh yeah,
and so I'm all in on Brooks Koepka. I was hesitant, but after this weekend, when you take it in totality, but also look kind of the way he took apart that course for 3 days, was able to hold off and win. I'm all in on Koepka. I think he's going to be awful tough to knock off the perch. We go to the re-tee. I was there on Saturday and have my own sort of takes on like the Bethpage experience. We previewed this a lot. It was certainly a big conversation with us on Play It Where It Lies last week with Amanda Rose, and certainly all throughout the week with everybody. What was your... how did it feel for you, like watching it, Bethpage, on TV and the fans and the course and the whole experience there?
I'm going to sum it up with the player that he was playing with in the final round, Koepka was playing with in the final round, Charles Varner III, comes out and is horrified by the way that the fans treated him. And instead of his first... he had a horrendous time, And
I don't know what he was doing in the final group either. Probably, how did he get there?
Probably just wanted to let the ground swallow him at some point there on the last day. But I think again, I called it exuberance on last week on the show, and I still think it's over exuberance. It's over... libated. It's if that's a real word, but I've made it up.
It was.
Sounds good.
It is. Sounds like you were over libated when you thought of that word.
Yeah. I don't know how you temper it up there. I heaven only knows what it's going to be like with the Ryder Cup there.
It's coming up and Play It, Drop It, Roll It. And listen, I was there on Saturday, and like I said, it was a bit of a temperate Bethpage crowd, I thought, compared to like the U.S. Open in 2009. For one, because so much of the drama was taken out of the tournament. Brooks Koepka kind of suffocated and just kind of put he put a big wet blanket over the whole tournament. He did. And the fans didn't really get fired up until Sunday. Hack and Hank was talking about before the show, and again, the guy knows a thing or two.
He does.
Hack and Hank in front of the camera one time.
No doubt.
A bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The sort of Long Islanders, and everybody heard about how it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to be, and all of this hype, and it's almost like, well, you kind of had to deliver it at some point.
You will, yeah.
Do you think it's a problem for the players? Do you think the players are eventually going to have to put a foot down and say something has to really change for us?
I would think at some point somebody has to do something about it. There is, nobody minds people rooting for their favorite players, and chanting for DJ is one thing. There's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
I think that's fine. I think chanting to have balls go in bunkers and have him hit bad shots, that's poor form for anybody.
I agree with you.
So I think you can be partisan towards one player or group of players, but or nationalities. It doesn't matter, it's fine. But to root against somebody that way, no, I'm not loving that.
And that is sort of now commonplace in the Ryder Cup and at Bethpage. You can't imagine it's a long way down the road. But I'm with you. I think that cheer, be as loud as you want to. Like there's this phrase, the gentleman's game. You can still have the gentleman's game and have boisterous fans. But what's the fundamental tenet of the gentleman's game is that you don't root against someone.
Exactly.
I think that's it. And so that's where I think it crosses the line is when you're doing something to affect the play or affect the psyche, of someone else directly. So the Bethpage experience, I didn't get there until almost 3 o'clock. By about 5 o'clock, I had a sufficient intake, I think, to make up for the rest of the day.
Good.
But we had it's a great venue to see a golf tournament. It's so majestic. It's so big. It's so beautiful. I just think I thought really all told, it was a fabulous week for golf in the way that they set it up and the way, Bethpage proved to be. I thought the course and kind of the spectacle that we wanted.
Do you think that the course was too much? On the last day, the 2 lowest scores were 68.
No, I don't.
You think it was?
I don't. Simply
you think it's a fair test of?
I just think we need more of it. Rather that it's like encouraging to again see a tournament other than the U.S. Open where pros are struggling. Like I don't like to go see the bad golf. That's not what I'm getting at. But I just think there should be some tougher tests out there. I think the equipment and the guys have gotten so good that a big long course that's tight and it's kind of your last defense. I like more scoring in the PGA Championship, but I thought it played more like the U.S. Open course.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you there. What you felt about it? Was it a little too U.S. Openish?
It was, and it's funny because we talked about how much I liked the PGA more than the U.S. Open because of generally the exciting golf that you get. That wasn't the case. This weekend, and both of me and my friend who were there, we both said like, there's something about being at a U.S. Open. The excitement of the nation's tournament and the buzz that certainly is not the case at the PGA. You're sort of a little more dependent on the kind of golf that you get. And this weekend it was sort of a dud until 45 minutes on Sunday. I kind of came back thinking, I was wrong on that. Like the U.S. Open, that patriotic and the feel of it.
I felt myself on Friday. On Friday, starting to look back in the pack already, thinking Koepka is going to walk away with this. I started to look back in the pack and see who's going to make the cut, who isn't going to make the cut. And I started looking at that number 3 under, 4, 3 over, 4 over, 5 over, 2. Where's it going to be? Who's there? Who's going to make it? And that was pretty exciting to look at it that way, I have to say. I enjoyed that.
That was some of the most drama, and we'll get into that. In our Play It Where It Lies awards and Play It, Drop It, Roll It coming up on the other side. But it did end up playing really tough, and Tiger misses the cut. I will say, we handed out last week. Generally, it's like a dark horse to ride. Our way back winner gave you guys Shane Lowry 150-1. He finished 8th.
Michael,
you put some money on Shane at 150-1, little each way bet. Like he cashed out.
My glad Eddie Pepperell proved his 200-1 odds were just.
They say there's a reason you're wide open, like in basketball. There's a reason you're open, but there's a reason you were 200-1.
But I am going to take some credit because
I said that's what we do on this show is take credit.
The 8:24 tee time on Thursday morning. The winner would come from that group.
You're right.
I said that.
And it wasn't the guy that you picked. It wasn't the guy I picked. And Tiger, and then Brooks beat Tiger by 17 shots.
It's amazing.
Over 2 days.
Amazing.
The good, the bad, and the hard in the golf. We play it where it lies. Stuart Conway, the Gent. I'm John Wiener, hanging out with Hack and Hank, Josh the Juice. We're going to hand out our Play It Where It Lies awards. And as always, a really good Play It, Drop It, Roll It segment. Jonathan Wall coming up as well. We still got to talk about the bird for Ole Miss this past weekend. Stay tuned.
Golf puts you in tough spots. We play it where it lies.
This is Stuart, the Gent, alongside John Wiener, my good pal here.
I'm glad to be back. I spent way too much time in Long Island with those Strong Island Yankees, man. I'm glad to be back here with my friends.
I'm glad you didn't pick up too many bad habits up there. I don't want to get hassled.
I know, right? I wasn't up there long enough. Fortunately, I fled as quick as I could.
So we're coming to this part here now. Where it's just, I love these awards that we give out here. So we're here now with the Play It Where It Lies awards, and we've given to all sorts of folks, both in golf and out of golf, life in general, golf life, however. Special week, PGA tournament. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to go with sort of golf and life here, and I'm going to give it out to Rich Beam. I don't know if you saw the story with Rich Beam, what he did this past weekend, but here's a guy, obviously, who stared down Tiger in his prime at Southern Hills years ago and won a PGA championship. It is the only thing he ever won or is ever known for in the game of golf. He plays one tournament a year, the PGA Championship, because he has an exemption until he's 65. And he does commentating the rest of the time for Sky Sports, and then does stuff for Golf Channel. Rich Beam went out there at Bethpage Black playing his only tournament of the year professionally, and he had a great line. He said, most of the time, I play golf with a cart and a cooler full of beer. And he said, I'm out there walking Bethpage Black in my one tournament. He shoots a 30 on the back nine, birdies 5 of his last 6 holes to make the cut at Bethpage, and then he turned around and did Sky Sports commentary all night. They didn't even figure that he would make the cut. You know what I mean? Like they had him out there on Saturday. But Rich Beam's one of the good guys in golf, and you talk about the ultimate, like just throw it down and play it where it lies. To shoot 30 on the back nine, really fired up, and Rich Beam came out and shot like 84 the next day, and he finished like at the bottom. Exactly. Who cares? He didn't care. He was so happy and so juiced off of his Friday round. So it was a great story. Rich Beam, the former PGA champion, gets my Play It Where It Lies.
That's a great choice, because I saw that big hug he gave his caddy at the end when he finished. It was an emotional moment, and it was a great moment. Great choice. I'm going to go with Rob Labritz. Rob Labritz, the club pro from Bedford Hills, New York, who was the lowest club pro, made the cut. Shot 2 over on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah, and
that's one of the best rounds on the course.
If you just can imagine, as a club pro who gets to play, if he's lucky, with a few of his members, teaches, runs the tournaments at the club, gets worried about the fact they've got no golf cars out there, and the pin's missing on 13.
Too many 5-sums, bottling up 12.
And there he is. He comes from that, gets in as much practice as he can, makes the cut, finishes it off, and finishes as a low club pro. I think it's a great thing, and that's why I love club pros playing in this tournament. I think it just shows that if his life had gone in a different direction, he knows now he was good enough to make the cut at the PGA Championship. It's a great thing for Rob. Great thing for the game of golf. I love it. Love it, the Play It Where It Lies award.
Yeah, it's a great award, and you hit the nail on the head. We talked about it last week, how we both, we're not up for like Tony Romo and Steph Curry getting spots from PGA Tour guys. The PGA pros, the club pros getting to play in the PGA Championship is a great part of it, and you get stories like these, and the whole point of the game, certainly the way it used to be. And we got Jonathan Wall coming up soon, and I read a great piece about this in Golf Magazine in the latest one that they put out about how, the game the tour guys play now is not very relatable to us. It feels like they play a different game. The club pros kind of bridge the gap a little bit. You say, hey, there's an everyman who can play with those guys but plays with us. So it's always a great feel. Let's get into Play It, Drop It, Roll It.
Play it, drop it, or roll it.
I love this segment. By the way, Play It Where It Lies. We're driven by Gulf States golf cars, Highway 51 in Ridgeland. See it right there on the shirt. We gotta pick up some swag and pass it out to the Play It Where It Lies folks.
I do.
I took the Gulf States golf cars, the Pro V1s. They made an appearance in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania this weekend.
Excellent.
Yeah,
spread it around.
It was gleaming, and I didn't lose a one. Imagine that. That's what that's what they do actually. I can act like, right. I'm not going to qualify that. Let's get into Play It, Drop It, Roll It. This is an interesting one here. Let's start. John Daly's act is tired.
But John Daly is tired.
John is definitely tired.
It's. I think it was a poor choice to allow him to take a card around. As I said, I think I said last week, there is such a thing as a career-ending injury. If you can no longer play the game and walk the game and do it the way it's supposed to be done, I'm not in for exemptions on these things. John is a great character and is great for the game. And, maybe it's time that, John can't hardly finish a tournament anymore, and it's a shame for him, So I think it's an act, isn't it an act? It's tiresome. He's tired. It's tiresome to watch now.
So you're going to play that one?
I'm playing it.
It was. I wonder. Let me ask you this: do you think the PGA allowed? Like, do you think if it's anyone but John Daly? You think if it's John Davis that he gets the cart? Like the image of Daly in the golf cart with the McDonald's cup was so quintessentially Daly. It's almost like the PGA wanted to have that scene out there.
I don't know. I think it was probably more an act of kindness and perhaps political correctness that he went through the American Disabilities Act to gain his exemption. And where do you go with that? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I have a son as a lawyer. I have 2 sons who are lawyers. So nowadays, but I don't know how that goes. How you handle that type of thing. But I believe the game of golf at the professional level is a walking game. I personally would love to walk the game anyway, you know, but
Sure.
We can't nowadays. I mean, and some courses are way too long and too much distance between greens and tees and things like that. But and pace of play and everything else. But no, it's a bad move.
I'm gonna drop it, and because I don't know that it's an act with Daly as much as just sort of all Daly has left. It's who he is. I mean, what else is he going to do other than go be John Daly and the golfer? The reason I asked that is there was a couple of pieces that were written this week that were really good. One by Brendan Porath and one with Charlotte Wilder. And we're gonna have Brendan on the show next week. That, you know, what's the act about it is that the fans love him.
Yes.
And the fans, you know, see him as sort of this everyman and, you know, happy-go-lucky, beer-swilling kind of, but Daly has a lot of demons. He doesn't really like the crowd. He's not very nice to them. A lot of sort of what we see as sort of the all-shucks everyman guy is really a guy who's had a ton of problems, hasn't made good decisions, and has his life choices have kind of led him to this spot. And so there's a sinister side about it that I think most fans, we just want to just see the act of John Daly, but it's not an act. It's just only part of him. And I think the deeper side, how Daly feels, like you said about being out there, he's tired of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And you know, I can go back and I can tell stories about John Daly, you know, and he was here and you know, collapsed on the golf course, was taken to hospital, and then at 10 o'clock at night, he's back in the clubhouse.
Yeah, he and Billy Allen just ripping and running out there.
You know, and it's not, and it's kind of sad, and I think he's the epitome of the guy who believed all the hype about himself and believed he was the character, and he became a caricature.
I think it's well said.
You know, and you know, I don't think we need to be making it any worse for him than it is already.
It's well said.
Yeah. So there you go. So I'm going to go on to your guy here.
Okay.
DJ blew another chance.
I'm going to play this one. I don't see any other way around it because he was 7 shots back. Okay. You knew that Koepka, you felt like you could see it coming, was going to start to come back once it went off, and DJ got hot. Like, he's standing there on the 16th hole with an iron in his hand after a beautiful drive, and he's 1 shot off the lead. It was the first time in the actual tournament that DJ was actually a threat in the tournament. It was the first time, you know, up until then, it was all like no one ever thought that it wasn't game on. It was game on the 16th hole. Now, DJ made it that way, I know, by making some birdies and playing a great round. But as soon as it was game on, DJ went game off.
Yes.
As soon as he actually had a chance and everyone got really excited, it was right there. Koepka had come off with another bogey. All of a sudden, DJ's a shot back, and he's in the middle of the fairway with a mid-iron in, and he hit 3 of the worst shots that he hit over 2 days. And I just can't look at anything other than the fact, Stuart, that once again, when the tournament finally, the heat got turned up and DJ was right in the mix on Sunday, he immediately hit reverse.
Yeah, I have absolutely zero argument with any of that. I think he blew the chance to perform well and to end up well. Did he blow the chance to actually win it? Oh, no.
I think he did.
You
That's
think
what
he
I
did?
mean. I mean,
I
he
don't know
didn't.
if he did.
No, he blew the chance to win it because that's the whole point here is what we're talking about DJ. It's not seconds. It's not thirds. Yeah, he had a good tournament.
He did.
He was in second place. He played well, but we know that about DJ. That's the narrative that it's trying to change. And now for me, again, it's not just one time. It's yet another time when he had a chance against Koepka last year in Shinnecock. DJ, and then once it finally came down to, okay, the rubber meets the road, he went the other direction. And so with DJ, for a question like this, you have to say, well, what's the expectation? What's the standard? And for DJ, it's to win the golf tournament. And when he finally had the opportunity to do it, he played his worst golf. He's one shot back with 3 holes to go, and he bogeys 2 out of the last 3. And really, like the 16th, it was just classic DJ, sort of a misread on the club and the wind. And he goes through all this. Well, I had hit it into the wind earlier, and I thought it was going to react like that. And then he says, well, I hit a great chip and I hit a great putt. Not really. No. You missed both of them.
Well, that was a very difficult chip he had coming back from there. But having said that here, but the whole point about it is that he lost out on let's say he got back to 1 and then he had two bogeys, took him out of basically contention again. But he was put in contention by Koepka. Koepka was the one who put him into contention by 4 bogeys in a row. And so it's kind of like, did DJ blow it, or did Koepka get his act together enough to bring it back? And that's why I
think DJ blew it.
I
do.
Okay,
I mean, to make 2 bogeys in 3 holes in those holes, and let's be honest. I mean, that's not the part at Bethpage that gets you.
Not
from the fairway in 16 and then the 17th hole. I
would agree. I would agree.
And I think that Koepka giving him this golden opportunity when no one expected. I mean, Koepka put it on a freaking platter for him, I mean, to come all the way back, and then DJ's right there in the course. He knew what was happening.
Of course
Koepka was standing on 15 while DJ was on 16.
Yeah.
And so, maybe it's a little harsh, but that's the conversation with Dustin Johnson. Like with Harold Varner, yeah, great. It's play it all day. You know what I mean? But not DJ.
Yeah.
Tiger's missed cut is a concern. Play it, drop it, roll it.
Oh, dropping it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Neither of us expected him to play well this week.
No, I don't think it was his course, and he hadn't played in a month. Well, I think it was a mistake for him, but I'm not Tiger Woods, and who am I to question him? But yeah, no, I think he'll perform better at Pebble.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't. I just thought, having not played after the Masters, it didn't feel like the course that really set up for him with the premium on driving distance and accuracy. Yeah. I've always thought that sort of going forward, Augusta would be a spot he could win. Yep. The Open Championship would be a spot that he could win, and I still think all that's in play. I'm with you. I mean, even Tiger, certainly at 43, coming off of a Masters win, can have a bad week, and he did.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and we shouldn't take him. I mean, every major is one less he's got that he can win.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's a big concern. This one in particular. PGA Championship live streaming.
I'm going to drop this one. The stream never worked, man. No. Every time you turn it on, it was like an advertisement, and then you'd see some golf, and then it would stop. And you know what happens when you stop and you replay it? You know what you have to see all over again?
Yeah.
The advertisement when you first put it on. So I saw a lot of people pushing back that, the stream wasn't as quality and consistent as, say, like the Masters stream, but also then when it breaks every time you had to then watch a commercial. I had to watch the stream on Sunday on the train, on the LIRR, heading out to JFK, and the stream stops when everyone loads onto the train from where? Bethpage, as we go past it. So I literally spent Sunday afternoon, the final moments of the final round, trying to pull up the golf tournament on the stream at the stop, at the Bethpage stop on the subway. Wow. So that was even more sort of frustrating. I felt like I could just like roll down the window and kind of like hear what was happening. But, they had like J.J. Henry, and it just, I don't know. I didn't find it that strong.
Yeah. The only thing I read on anything there, I did not stream for one time this week. We managed to get most of it on TV. We did stream a little in the mornings, I will say that, and it was okay. I mean, we didn't have any issues on there, but I know that CBS took a little bit of flack for cutting to the DJ interview as Koepka is playing his shot out of the sand.
I didn't see. I was stuck on a train of hooligans.
You were stuck on a train, not streaming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they cut to the interview on DJ, and their DJ is talking while Koepka is playing the shot out of the sand. That could have gone anywhere.
That is the biggest gripe with CBS.
Yeah.
And we talked about it with the Masters, that here's this historic win for Tiger, and they're cutting back to Amanda Balionis talking with, Kevin Chappell or whoever. And
it was kind of crazy.
I do think CBS always at, the biggest moments trying to do too much instead of doing less.
Yeah.
Let's go to Rory's top 10 is a positive. Play it, drop it, roll it.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, if I was Rory McIlroy coming out of this tournament, I would probably feel positive on Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
And so I'm playing this one. I think that he had such a horrendous opening 9 on Friday. He was out of the tournament. He was dead and buried.
Yeah.
To come back and make the cut. 5 birdies, and then on Sunday shoot the second best round of the tournament of the day.
Yeah.
1 under. Well, to get it back to +1 on there, I'm taking it there. That I know that we can look at it other ways, and that I'm thinking it's a positive that he reacted well to it, and I think that's more important right now than his finish.
I think you're just in an optimistic, you're the gent, you know what I mean? You're seeing and maybe I'm just bitter from being on the plane this morning, because I'm going to drop this one for the exact same reasons we talked about with Dustin Johnson. This is the conversation with Rory. This is not the first time. This is everything that Rory is trying to avoid. We've seen this a lot, that Rory just can't put it together, and then as soon as he's out of the tournament, he'll shoot the 64.
Well,
that makes you think, well, where was that the whole time? How many times have we heard Rory say, well, if I could have just, played those first 27 holes differently? I think that this is the exact narrative that surrounds Rory that is problematic for him, is this inconsistency, Thursday through Sunday, 1 round, front 9 to back 9. And I thought it really showed more of that McIlroy isn't in any better spot, and that he hasn't come closer to, despite the PGA championship win, he kind of did the same thing in the Masters. All of a sudden, he played a good round when
he was
it wasn't to be contested anymore. Like Rory with DJ, it's not about top 10s, it's not about 2s, it's about winning. And I think more of the same from Rory and more of the same is not a positive. I think it's a negative. I drop it all the way. I mean, we're really supposed to care about Rory because he played a great Sunday round and got a T8? I mean, here's a guy with 4 majors, for crying out loud, who hasn't won in 6 years.
Right. Do you think he's going to win again?
I do.
You do. I do too.
I think he's just so immensely. I think he's so immensely talented that he's going to have to win, and he is a bit streaky. But it's when is it going to be? You don't know.
So I'm going to give you a little analogy here of my life.
Analogies are good.
This is going to be good.
Let me settle in for this one.
So back in 1990, I was trying to quit smoking. And I was a 3-pack a day smoker.
You have my attention, Jack.
I had a lot I smoked a lot of cigarettes. And I went to the doctors, and obviously you can smell cigarette smoke.
Sure, of course. I know.
Yeah. So he said, did you ever try to quit? And I said, oh, gosh, yeah, did I ever try? I tried to quit a number of times. And, once I quit for 6 months, and I didn't have a cigarette, and then I was right back on it. I don't know what made me do it.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, he said to me, you should feel positive about that. Why should I feel positive about that? Because one day you'll succeed. So every time you fail is one time closer to succeeding. I think McIlroy is going to win again. Every time he fails is one time closer to him succeeding again. He's that good a player. He is a streaky player, but he's going to put all those rounds together and win something again.
No, I can buy that, and I think it's well said, and I'll internalize it this way. Rory said very much, he said, I wanted to be here for the weekend. He is doing his damnedest to figure it out.
Yes.
There is a weird inconsistency in his game, whether it's, again, hole for hole in terms of, the driver versus, the short iron, or, again, year to year, tournament to tournament. I think think it's well said that Rory is showing that he's still here for the fight, and so I agree with you. As long as he wants it, it will happen. Yeah. But I think again the trend continues to disturb, and we continue to say, well, when, because it doesn't look like it's any different, right now. Good play it, drop it, roll it. This is Play It Where It Lies. The Gent, Stuart Conway. I'm John Wiener. Golf puts you in tough spots. We've still got tough lies coming up. A good question, I think, that I want to get into. We'll have some questions for Jonathan Wall, Golf Magazine managing editor as well. It's coming up next.
The good, the bad, the hard in golf.
This is Play It Where It Lies, wrapping up the PGA Championship. I'm here with the Gent, Stuart Conway. I'm John Wiener, and happy to welcome in friend of the program right now. We get a great privilege to visit with Jonathan Wall just about every year, and he's joining us now, the managing editor at Golf Magazine. Jonathan, how you doing, man?
Hey, guys, I'm doing great.
Jonathan, just Brooks Koepka, your thoughts on what he did at the PGA Championship and kind of what was most impressive for you about the wire to win for Brooks?
Yeah, he's on an incredible tear right now. I mean, it's four major wins in 8. I mean, we're talking about stuff that only really Tiger Woods has done during the modern era. So, that I think to me is the most astounding thing. Is I never really thought that we'd ever be able to compare a guy's track record in the majors to what Tiger did during the peak of his career, early to mid 2000s. But, again, Brooks has proven that he's worthy of being in that discussion. I think for me, the most impressive thing from what I saw from Brooks was just, he was leaking oil pretty bad on the back nine, and he found a way to right the ship. I think other players, if you make 4 bogeys in a row, being on the bogey train that long and watching a 7-shot lead dwindle, it's got to be demoralizing. But he seemed to kind of keep plodding along, and I think that just goes back to the kind of demeanor he has. He's a pretty cool customer. Never really seems to get too up or too down. I say that he and Dustin Johnson are kind of the flatliners out on tour. You just can never really tell when they're too high or too low, and that's why when I saw Brooks kind of the emotion there at the end of the win. I mean, you could tell. I mean, he said it afterwards. Biggest win of his career, and the one that meant the most. I mean, you could just tell it just based on the way that he was showing that emotion there at the end.
Yeah, I think thinking about it, Jonathan, and watching what was going on, it was very difficult to read his emotion as he was going through that, which must have been tremendous, and he alluded a little bit to it in the end. Is he that difficult a person to read and to understand his personality, or are we just getting all the wrong end of Brooks Koepka?
No, I think, I talked to somebody recently, and they said that he's pretty elusive was the word that they used. He kind of does his own thing, whether that's, kind of testing his own golf equipment at home. He doesn't really do a lot of that when he's out in the public eye during a tournament week. And just, trying to kind of get a handle on who Brooks Koepka is. He's been, pretty tight-lipped. I mean, I think we know that he's a guy that is kind of cut from the same cloth as a Tiger Woods. He wants to win more than anything else, and I think, obviously, making money along the way is important. But I think for him, the most important thing is what's his career resume going to look like when he hangs it up. So, yeah, he's a guy that again is just pretty much a flatliner, and we're so used to watching Tiger during his heyday where he was just so fiery and you could tell whether Tiger was frustrated or not. Brooks is just not that guy. And I think we've seen a couple of those guys now here, again, as I mentioned, Dustin Johnson, who, they're so calm and collected when they're out there. I think that's such a benefit for them because even when things are going sideways, they still can kind of find a way to keep things under control. And, in a major championship, that's tough to do when you're seeing shots disappear. So, Brooks, for me, he's a guy who just is able to control himself on the golf course, and obviously it's paying off with all these major wins.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan, you mentioned Brooks's talking with him about his equipment, and I know you have so much expertise there. For our audience and for me and Stuart also, what would surprise someone about the equipment that Koepka uses? Like what would surprise us? You know it so well, so I'll just leave it at that. What is something that maybe we wouldn't realize about the gear that Brooks is using?
I think it would probably just be the fact that he is a very difficult guy to get to change once he finds something that he likes. I mean, Nike exited the equipment business in 2016, but he's still using a Nike 3-iron that he had from his time when he was on staff as an equipment staffer with Nike. And it's a club that, over the years he's got backups of it just in case. But, he's had other opportunities to use other irons to replace that, but he likes it so much. It's the same thing with his lob wedges. He's been using the same Vokey lob wedge grind and all, probably going back to around 2013.
Wow.
It's just, again, he's one of those guys that just doesn't like to change, and I think that just goes to show in the fact that he hasn't signed an equipment contract since Nike dissolved their equipment side. And again, he's had opportunities, people throwing money at him, but again, I don't think the money is that important to him. I truly think that now that he's seeing those winning majors with the clubs he has, even though he's not getting paid for them, it's just why would you change? I think some guys, again, ego gets in the way sometimes, but for Brooks, he wants to win, and that's all that really matters. And at the end of the day, if it's a club that's 5 or 6 years old that's getting the job done, so be it. Yeah,
I think that Vokey wedge, that lob wedge, I think it's an SM4, which tells you how old that club actually is. I guess he is the hottest player on there now for a new equipment deal with somebody, and I mean, obviously he's using mostly Mizuno irons, with the exception of his wedges. And I think a lot of Mizuno players are using other wedges. But do you think there's any chance he would sign with Mizuno on a limited club contract?
I don't think so. For Brooks, I think his valuation, the number that he thinks he's probably worth, is a lot higher than what Mizuno is going to be willing to pay. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the sides could ever really come to an agreement. I mean, I think that's just kind of simple facts. I'm fairly certain that the two have entertained the idea of trying to come up with something over the last few years. But again, Brooks is using the stuff. He's playing well. Mizuno's essentially getting free advertising. I know they can't use Brooks' name and likeness, but people who follow golf know that Brooks is using Mizuno irons. Yeah. That's not something that's going to surprise anybody. So I think that it's really just kind of like a backdoor partnership. I mean, they shake hands. They both know that they're getting something out of it, and I think they're just both good with it.
Mm-hmm. Golf Magazine managing editor Jonathan Wall with us here on Play It Where It Lies. And Jonathan, speaking of Golf Magazine, I was flying back from Bethpage this morning, actually drop in to do a show this afternoon, but got a chance to pick up the latest issue of Golf Magazine and the U.S. Open preview. And I want you to talk in just a second about kind of the new things happening at Golf Magazine. It's a fantastic issue, but I read in the issue about the Callaway Epic Flash and the supercomputer, the robot behind it, and the design there, and sort of as a breakthrough in drivers and the kind of distance that allegedly it's supposed to put on. What is the skinny on the Epic Flash? Is it the breakthrough driver that's being advertised that we're hearing about?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that Callaway is doing something very different from what we've seen in the past for driver design. We're so used to drivers looking a certain way. They've gotten larger over the years. 460cc is the standard size, out of whether you're playing with your buddies or out on tour. The faces have typically been made with the center of the face being the thickest part to make sure that while it's hot, it's not too hot, so it still stays conforming and getting thinner towards the heel and the toe. What Callaway found out by using a supercomputer, is that this computer was able to essentially find spots within the face where it could make it a little bit thicker, thinner than what you typically find on an average driver face. So if you were to look at this face underneath a microscope, it kind of looks like a mountain. Some spots are really thick, other spots are very thin. And the fact that they're not really using a human element here, it's all being done by a computer. It is. I feel like this is the wave of the future to some extent. I don't think everybody's going to be using it because it's something that Callaway's proprietary system that they're using. But I could certainly see, we're now seeing faces being machined, no longer by hand, but by machines. And it takes a lot of the human element. I feel like to some extent, I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, and it's good. It's good for equipment, but there's some times where I feel like, gosh, if you take out the human element and it's just being done by computers and robots, then what can we do? I guess we can swing the golf club still, but I still think you need a human there to be able to give a critical eye to a club, particularly irons, but maybe not so much a driver.
They're going to put Stuart the Gent out of a job at this rate.
Will. I'm with you on that. I'm a traditionalist. I think craftsmanship in the art of making clubs is part of the whole essence of the game of golf, But that's just me. I'm an older generation, and
I did think it was interesting how they said that the computer it was so inverse and so apart from anything that engineers learned and the core physics of where all of these club designers came from, that it was almost the fresh set of artificial eyes that even Jonathan made it possible in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think for more than anything, it's just it shows you that I think the equipment industry as a whole, we're starting to see a shift away from and again, craftsmanship is still there. Mike Taylor who was with Nike, who is Tiger's guy building his irons and wedges. They have Artisan Golf over here in Fort Worth. And, they're still doing things by hand. But yeah, I think we're now kind of seeing two different camps here. We're still seeing a lot of those who say craftsmanship is important. Mm-hmm. There's also the other camp that's saying, well, you can also do it other ways with a computer, kind of telling you how to optimize product.
I'm glad I remembered this to get this in. Jonathan, you got a chance to play Augusta National after the Masters, and it was quite a story in terms of your journey to and from and like back there again. Could you just sum up quickly what that experience was like, that you're finally getting to play Augusta?
Yeah, it was incredible. It wasn't even really supposed to be there that week because we had so many other staffers on site. Opportunity opened up, and I made it to Augusta, and I thought, well, surely if I'm here, even though I wasn't planning on staying the whole week, again, because we had so many people there, I thought, I'll just throw my name in the hat and see what happens. And 28 players get to play, 28 media members get to play Augusta the Monday after the final round. And my name got called. I was at an Easter brunch with my kids, and I got a FaceTime phone call and another one, and I was going to pick him up. And then finally on the fourth one, I thought, why are they calling me? And then it kind of dawned on me that I was going to play. So it was a mad dash to get back. There were bad storms in Dallas, and almost missed my flight, and briefly considered the idea of a 13.5-hour drive from Dallas back to Augusta just so I could make it for the mandatory meeting on Sunday. But yeah, the round was unbelievable. Driving down Magnolia was it kind of felt like an out-of-body experience. It really did not feel real, and just the whole round. I mean, it was truly one of the most special experiences of my golfing life, to be able to play Augusta, especially the day after Tiger. I mean, standing there on 18, realizing that 24 hours before, that was where Tiger was putting out to win his 15th major. It gives you chills when you think about it. You look around and there are no fans there, but you can still feel the energy 24 hours later.
I think everybody in the world as golfers would say, well, I'll drop anything, anytime, no matter what I'm doing to get the opportunity to play Augusta. And Jonathan Wall did just that. Jonathan, before we let you go, I got a chance to check out the latest golf magazine issue, the U.S. Open preview about Pebble Beach. It's absolutely outstanding. I know it's part of a kind of a new era in golf at Golf Magazine, so to speak. You're managing editor there. Just tell us about the exciting things happening.
Yeah, so we've changed the entire issue, brought in new design directors, creative. I mean, everything about the magazine is different from the previous product. And the previous product was good, but there were some things that needed to change. And this one is bigger and bolder. It feels more, in my opinion, kind of like a fashion magazine. It's just thicker paper. The magazine's bigger, but it's the same quality of writing that you've come to expect. Alan Shipnuck, Michael Bamberger, some of the best and most connected writers in the golf world. They're still writing for us, and it's a lot of fun. This U.S. Open issue was great. Michael wrote a really great piece on Phil and his.
It's fantastic. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a really great piece, and actually I'll give a plug for mine. I wrote a story on the history behind Tiger's Nike ball that he used. That was the first time that Nike had really started making a golf ball for Tiger, and spoke to some people who actually had direct dealings with Tiger during that time and what it was like testing with him. And I think you'll find it was a really cool story.
I'm only about halfway through the magazine, and because there's so much good stuff in it already, so I can't wait to get home and read the rest of it. Jonathan Wall, managing editor with Golf Magazine, always kind enough to stop by here on Play It Where It Lies. Jonathan, we appreciate it. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk to you again.
Hey, thanks, man.
Thanks
a lot, man. Jonathan Wall on Play It Where It Lies, and we'll be back here with Stuart the Gent, John Wiener, Hack and Hank hanging out, Josh the Juice, ISO Joe made an appearance in the studio. I don't know what that's all about, but we play it where it lies, man. So stay with us.
Golf gives and takes away. We play it where it lies.
Real golf talk on Play It Where It Lies. And Stuart, always my favorite part of this show is getting to talk with the Shane Bacons, the Shane Ryans, Jonathan Walls of the world. We're so fortunate for the game's foremost experts around the country and the world to be able to join us here. And always really love talking with Jonathan and the gear, especially. I know that got your gears going.
I love it. I might punch out with some of that stuff tonight.
Well, punch outs are coming up. Tough Lies coming as well. But I got to ask you something first. So how'd you get in a championship flight this past weekend?
I have no idea.
The Gent doesn't have any more pull out at Castlewood than that. At least to get in a second flight. They stuck you in the champions flight?
They stuck me and my partner in the championship flight. We handled ourselves pretty well.
I'm sure you did.
We did.
You always acquit yourself well in tournaments.
3 holes of scramble, 3 holes of shamble, and 6 of shamble, scramble, and 6 of 4-ball. We did pretty good. I have to say, we did not end up bottom. We were the highest handicaps in the flight. So
I'm surprised.
Pre-flighted.
I'm surprised you didn't slip somebody some of that Stuart Conway money and get knocked down a flight or two.
I didn't know I had to.
Or else you wouldn't have been.
If anybody out there is listening, I didn't know I had to. Just say the word.
Did it surprise you that you were in the champions flight?
It did, because other guys in our group who play in our group,
show up next to like Rhett Crowder.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Josh Martin, who's like a +6 handicap and that. But anyway, we equipped ourselves quite well.
Yeah.
I think we finished 6th or 7th in the flight, which was, for us, was pretty good.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah, well, I was pleased.
Always a lot of good fun, and again, Play It Where It Lies. And the whole point about the game is the game the tour plays, but also our game, the tour game to your game, and everything in between. So let's get into that in Tough Lies a little bit. And I saw something interesting suggested, Stuart, a couple of weeks ago, and it was quite simple. It said golf should. Well, I'll give you a little background. There's a course, I think it was in Texas, that they've said we don't have a dress code here.
Okay.
We're doing away with the dress code. And there were pictures of kids playing in hoodies and shorts and sneakers and no dress code, no collared shirt, and wear whatever you want. They caught some flack for it. And then I saw some people chime in and say, no, this is what needs to happen. Not only do we need to go in this direction, the dress code in golf, and I'm not talking about for the tour, but in golf, should be abolished. We should just blow it up. There should not be a dress code. And the more I think about it, the more I agree with it, and I'm interested to hear what you say.
Well, I think that if you leave anything up to individuals, as we don't like certain fashions of, whoever we may be, I like a dress code because I think it stops the outrageous, the outlandish, and the downright abusive stuff that can be on people's clothing nowadays.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think that if we have T-shirts with all sorts of motifs and things on there that are disrespectful, shall we say, at best, and I say abusive at worst, we have to have some control over what it is that people are wearing in there. Now then, if we're talking about...
Because that's a bit of like the slippery slope argument.
No, it's not. It's saying that we still need to control it, but I'm not in favor of controlling it to the degree where, as I grew up in the game playing, you had to have a collared shirt. You had to have your shirt tucked into your pants. You were not allowed to wear suspenders on a golf course. You had to have golf shoes on. You couldn't wear sneakers or anything else. They had to be golf shoes. You weren't allowed to change your shoes in the car park. You had to go into the changing rooms to do it. And okay, that's an era gone by. It's no longer necessary to do all that. But I think there has to be some control. I think there has to be something about the type of T-shirt. I don't think I really want to be.
Why does it matter?
Well, because
What does it matter if I show up and play you in a T-shirt?
No, it doesn't matter if you show up in a T-shirt. It matters if you show up in a T-shirt that
has offensive things on it.
Yeah. So, and nowadays you can get a T-shirt made with anything on it.
See, that doesn't strike me as like the big concern here. Let me ask you this: what's the reason for the dress code in the first place? As like a really historian of the game, like why the dress code? Why do we have to wear the collared shirt and tuck in the pants in the first place? And I'm not asking like dissonantly. I think it's important to establish like what's the reason for the dress code in the first place.
Well, the reason for the dress code is that originally golf clubs were male members clubs. They were clubs, and they were gentlemen's clubs, and gentlemen wore collars and ties, as did the golfers in past. They wore a tie on the golf course. We stopped that. They wore +4s. Shorts were only brought into the game of golf. I'm going to say in the 60s that you could actually wear shorts on a golf course. The most you could wear was a short called a +2, which was a long short. I believe it came below the knee. It didn't have to have socks on with it. +4s were the ones that went over the knee and were tapered and had the socks on. And it was a gentleman's game, and you acted like a gentleman.
Yeah.
And gentlemen wore collars and ties. And as I grew up playing the game, we at the end of a tournament, you didn't have a prize giving. You had a dinner afterwards, and you all showered and changed, and you put your blazers on and your club ties, and off you went in to have dinner, and you were given the presentation. So
sounds awful stuffy.
It was very stuffy. It was, and I'm not suggesting we go back, but that's the way that I was brought up playing the game, and the way I accepted it. You didn't want the guy, you didn't want the guy sitting next to you with the yellow suspenders with the measuring tape marks on it, and
I think you're dancing around it. I think you're dancing around it. I think what you're not saying is that you didn't want, not what they're wearing, the type of person that might wear that. I think what you're saying is you didn't want the riffraff, you didn't want the redneck, you didn't want the hooligan as a part of the game. Like the word that comes to mind for me, and I wrote it down, is exclusivity. I think the reason and so aren't we trying to get away from that? If we talk about exclusivity in the game being the biggest problem for growing the game, I think the dress code is part and parcel with that. I think everything about the dress code is you have to be a certain status, you have to have a certain background, and you have to look like a certain set of people do. And the more I think about growing the game, and the more I think about trying to make the game less exclusive and appealing for everybody, and just generally less stuffy and more of the everyman, I think the root of the dress code is about the exclusivity of it. And so for me, I'm all about breaking that down and chipping away. Now, I think there's something about, it being an aspirational game and being a gentleman's game. And, our president would certainly say, we need the dress code. This should be only a game for the half of the 1%. I don't feel that way. And for me, I also think that exclusivity, that dress code, like when you think about, like I'll use the line from Happy Gilmore, and I sort of will use it tongue in cheek, but this is a big deal. When he says, "Oh, if I caught myself in pants like that, I'd kick my own ass." Like I think I think that's a big turnoff for a lot of people. Certainly, maybe African American kids, inner city kids, that you have to look a certain way. Heaven forbid I can't afford a polo shirt. Heaven forbid I can't afford like golf spikes. We shouldn't keep those people off the course. The more I think about it, I think we should just blow the whole damn thing up. And if you're a private club, you do what you want. You know what I mean? But I think if I go to a public golf course, whether it's Patrick Farms, Sunny Guy, Glen Mills, where I just played, I think I ought to be able to show up and play in whatever the hell I want to, as long as it's not offensive to someone else. It's the whole thing.
So who decides what's offensive?
I mean,
if you say that, so long as it's not offensive to somebody else,
it's in the same.
Somebody has to make a decision on what is offensive and what isn't offensive.
It's the same standards that we have everywhere. Nothing vulgar, nothing obscene. I think as long as there's none of that. I mean, people don't. What's offensive in the general public, I think, is offensive when people wear things with swear words on them and middle fingers. Like we're going to frown on that in Walmart as much as we will with the golf. That's not what I'm advocating for. But I think that if you want to play in a t-shirt, I think if you want to play with the shirt untucked, I think if you want to play in shoes and not cleats, I'm more and more saying that you ought to be able to. And I think, especially if we're serious about growing the game, and I see Hack and Hank shaking his head back there, I think especially if we're serious about growing the game and making it less exclusive and more inclusive, and certainly with certain demographics, I'm behind it.
Okay, so tell me, we had a couple of weeks ago, we had the from the first tee,
Margot Coleman.
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about what are the aspirations of those kids in the first tee? What is it that we're trying to teach them?
Sure, to aspire to something,
to be
to
something
the gentleman's
else,
game,
to be more, not just in the game of golf, but in life. And we will have people who will tell you that if the fashion today is that I'm, as it has been and still is, that certain groups of people have their pants hanging down over their butts. It doesn't really offend me as I wore stupid things, I'm sure, when I was their age, things that our parents look at it. But we're looking beyond that. We're looking for the game of golf to grow people as individuals.
In the same way that...
And not only... They're not all going to become professional golfers. They're not all going to become captains of their golf club or chairman of their golf club or PGA professionals. But they're going to have an aspiration in life to be better people than they are now. And we don't teach people to dress badly for success.
Right. It's a really good point. I think it's one of the strongest ones in sort of supporting the idea of a dress code.
Yeah.
I wrote down outrageous, outlandish, abusive. Those are funny words because I've seen a lot of people who look like Adam Scott out there, the way they dress up. Like, I've seen a lot of people who follow the dress code to a T. Maybe even me, hacking somebody in here, who are nothing if not outrageous, outlandish, and abusive. The clothes don't make a damn bit of difference in terms of how they conduct themselves. And I think it's a trope. I think it's archaic. I think there's a place for it. But the more that I haven't considered this, I've been thinking about it a lot in the last 3-4 weeks. If we're really serious about knocking down the exclusivity in the game, about growing it, making it more inclusive, giving people the opportunity to play. Look, we want to play quicker. We want to make it easier. We want to play faster. We want to make it more accessible. None of that says dress code.
No, I don't disagree with it. But none of what anybody is doing makes a darn bit of difference to any of that you've talked about. Yeah, not a single one of the rules that's just been brought in has made any darn difference to pace of play on a Saturday or Sunday morning.
Right.
But I will tell you this. What you wear, it gets you treated differently by people around you, and it does change your attitude to life, the way that people treat you.
Well said.
And the way that you're looked at, you will alter towards that. So I'm still in agreement. Even though I answered the question that you asked me, which was really about how the history of it grew up, and I went through stages of my learning.
Well, it's important.
It wasn't a direct statement on where I think it should be, but I think as I talk about it and listen to it, I think it is important. It is important that we teach our children respect for things, and to be respectful says that in certain situations, this is the way you dress. We went to our son-in-law's graduation at law school up in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And
sounds warm.
It was cold. And our daughter, when my wife said to her, "What's going to be kind of the dress code in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and when it's kind of like spring/summer and it's still winter up there, and she said, "Well, I have to tell you that I was told, dress like you would to a wedding." So it's kind of like, so there are places for certain amounts of decorum and certain ways to dress. And if we don't tell people or give them guidelines, I think one of the worst things we can do to people in any situation is make them uncomfortable by not giving them a guideline to follow. It's again, I'll put it, walk into a restaurant.
Can't you also make them equally uncomfortable, thinking that you have to?
No, because you can make the guideline. You can adjust the guideline dependent on where you are. And as you said, if you're going to a public course, okay, this is one. You can wear T-shirts, but they can't have any
Sure.
riding on them.
So it sounds like you're not in, and I think both of us here, it's easy to say abolish it and blow it up. I feel like there can, because it's a difficult question. Because I think there is that side of it, that this aspirational and professional and how you conduct yourself is a part of how you dress. There's no doubt about it. But I also think a lot of it is sort of in, as you said, the reasons for it initially, and a lot of what it's grounded in is about kind of class and status and exclusivity.
I think you're correct. I think it is. I think it is, and I think that there is less and less need for it. And I would be perfectly willing to say, yes, okay, that, you know, shorts, polo shirt, T-shirt, you know, sneakers, Skechers, whatever you've got on your feet, so long as you don't fall down, it's okay. You know, you know. So I'm with you on it, but I do think there needs to be some guideline set, and once you start making that guideline, then you are in control of it all, and you should be. You should be in control of what's going on at every club. I don't care whether it's the highest exclusive club in the world, or it's, you know, the local muni down the street. Yeah. Somebody's in charge of that club, and somebody's making rules. It's a good point on both sides, and a really good discussion.
It's a tough question.
It's a tough question.
That's why we tee it up in Tough Lies. This, of course, play it where it lies. The good, the bad, the hard in golf. Golf does put you in tough spots. When you're in tough spots, sometimes you just got to punch out. So we're going to punch out here as we end the show and wrap it up here on Play It Where It Lies. You wanted to do a little more from earlier on your punch out, because we got to talk about this Ole Miss golf bird.
We do. I'm just going to quickly down to we had a conversation a couple of weeks about equipment and everything else, and my punch out on this is you know, we've just spoken with Jonathan about epic flash drivers and this and that, and it's, you know, here guys, the punch out is, think about what it is you're spending money on. Think that what are you going to get the most bang for your buck from? Is it the $500 driver? Or is it...
It's almost a full set of irons.
Or is it the lesson from the PGA? It is almost a full set of irons now. You know, I mean, we're paying more for hybrids now. $250, $300 for a hybrid. You know, $350 for a fairway wood. You know, the equipment is only going to make it so much better for you. Get the technique down first. Think about going to your PGA professional, getting a lesson, learning how to chip, learning how to putt, learning how to take away a lot of your errors in the game, and it's much better for you than blowing out the instant karma of the epic flash or anything else.
Take it from the gent who knows the game and the industry and the pros, a former PGA Club pro yourself, and no arguments there. I will just say, like, a new driver is more fun than lessons on the range. Lessons on the range, and you're just like going the other way. The new driver, you go like whip it out, take the package off, and blast.
And these eras of instant gratification.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's something to be said, but no, it's with you. Well, speaking of blast, so this past weekend, it's one of the most bizarre events to happen in golf, in college golf, and it happened right here to our dear Ole Miss Rebels and Coach Malloy, who we've had on this show a lot. Got to see Ross Bjork. We had Corey Hincus on the show, the women's coach, and so we've talked about Ole Miss golf and the success they've had a lot over the past few years.
And the ladies are playing this afternoon.
Yeah,
this afternoon at 4:00.
And you know, they've got designs on really, you know, making a move in the NCAA's. The Ole Miss men did as well. So we'll make this really short, or try to, or at least the long story short until we get to what happened. They're in the NCAA's it's the round to get in the championship. You have to place top 5. They go into the last day battling with LSU for the 5th spot. And with like 2 or 3 holes to play, there's only 2 golfers left on the course. For each of these teams, Ole Miss and LSU. Ole Miss has a 4-stroke lead on that 5th and final spot to get to the NCAA championships with 2 holes to play, and Sarut Von Chaseit made a 9. He made a 9 on the 16th hole. And Stuart, how did he?
I'm sorry, I'm smiling.
How did he make that 9? He hit a bird.
He did.
And the ball went out of bounds after he hit the bird.
It's truly remarkable. I mean, truly remarkable. He first of all hit his drive inbounds and couldn't find it.
Yeah, it was like it wasn't lost. It was just right there
it was
next
there
to
somewhere, but they couldn't find it. Lost ball back, re-tee, hit a bird, hits it out of bounds.
Now he's hitting 5.
Yeah, makes a 9.
And they lost by a shot.
One shot.
And that's what it's, the story and everything. But when you think that they missed out on the NCAA by a single shot and the dude made a 9, 2 different penalties on the same hole, and one, he hit a bird. The odds of you hitting the bird have to be, they're astronomical. But not only did he hit the bird, because again, you play it where it lies. If it hits the bird and the ball falls down, you're on the fairway, you go hit it.
Yeah.
It hit the damn bird and went out of bounds.
Yeah, that's crazy. It was crazy.
And they lost by a shot.
Lost by a shot.
And I want to say, like, it has made, its rounds on the interwebs, and it's a humorous story. It's a story that's hard to believe, but can you imagine the heartbreak? I mean, really, like, can you imagine how awful and how heartbroken they feel to come that close and to have it be by the margin of, wait for it, a feather?
A feather.
See what we did there, but really, it's like it's
birds of a feather.
I mean, how heartbreaking is it, for Coach Malloy and really that whole team? And this was a kid who wasn't even supposed to be playing.
No,
he was an alternate, and
Ole
Miss's top guy got hurt, and he stepped in and played a great week. And there were 2 holes left. Yeah. They were this close with a 4-stroke lead, and he hit a bird. Yeah. I saw the bird. Like, I actually saw evidence. Like, the bird dead down there.
I didn't see it. I only heard the story, but it's tragic, and you wish they could have a re-tee on that one.
Yeah, no kidding. So, tough one for Ole Miss, and we'll punch out on that real quick. Hack and Hank, big shout out. He's got a bachelor party this weekend. They're having a golf bachelor party. You got any quick words of advice, the Gent, for Hack and Hank?
Play the golf on the first day.
Always spot on. The Gent, Stuart, Conway on Play It Where It Lies. I'm John Wiener. Big thanks to Jonathan Wall, managing editor of Golf Magazine, for joining us. Always a great show. Big shout out to the Juice, Josh Clegg, who said Hack and Hank as well. Play it where it lies. Play it on your phone. Play it in the car. Play it on the course. Just play it where it lies. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining Play It Where It Lies. Tee it up with us every week at Bash Brothers Media. Driven by Gulf States Golf Cars.